people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. It would appear that Elif Tran has once again upset the hometown fighter in devastating fashion with her 6th round stoppage of super featherweight Rima Ayadi for what was the WBA interim super featherweight title. The fight took place in France, Rima Ayadi's neck of the woods. Right before that, Elif Tran traveled to Northern Ireland for Shauna Brown. Both fights ended the same way, with Elif Tran knocking out the hometown fighter, now 11-0 with 7 KOs. She is in line to challenge undisputed champion Alycia Baumgartner for all the marbles, all the belts. The question is, will the fight happen? This was Elif Tran's 2nd fight of this year. She's been keeping a good schedule of fights. She fought 3 times last year, and she fought 2 times this one, with enough time left to squeeze in another fight. She's knocked out 3 of her last 6 opponents, 4 overall. She is fast becoming one of the most devastating punchers in the super featherweight division right now. Is she a threat to Alycia Baumgartner's reign as undisputed champion? I'm not sure that Alycia will stick around long enough to find out. I'm not saying that Alycia is ducking Elif Tran. For all I know, Alycia doesn't even know the woman. She's flying largely under the radar. The reason I think this fight might not happen is because, well, it's about time for Alycia to move up. She's been at super featherweight long enough, and while this fight would be a good fight for the hardcores, it wouldn't be a big fight for her bank account. Not really. As undisputed champion, Alycia has the option of sticking around a while longer and making mandatory defenses of each one of her alphabet titles, but that's only going to get you but so big a purse. All the big names have moved up and moved on. If Alycia wants a big purse, she has to join them. Right now, there's a lot more going on at 135 than there is at 130. I don't see a whole lot of reasons for Alycia to stick around. So Elif, I don't know if she's going to get this fight. The consolation prize would be that if Alycia does end up moving up in weight, she's going to vacate all the titles that she holds now, at which point Elif could be elevated to full WBA champion. Elif still appears to be promoted by Matchroom. She could soon become champion via the WBA. Now, via the WBC and the WBO, former champion Delphine Persoon is ranked at number 1. If she still sticks around and she doesn't retire and Alycia moves up, Delphine could see herself crowned a full world champion again. Via the IBF, a name we haven't heard in a while, Hyun-Mi Choi. Hyun-Mi Choi is ranked at number 1. And she sticks around. If she doesn't retire, she could end up becoming a champion in the super featherweight division in the absence of Alycia Baumgartner. Every single one of these fights, I think, is a winnable fight for Elif Tran. That if she does become champion and subsequently goes on an undisputed run, if these are the fighters that she has to fight, I think she can beat them both. The super featherweight division is still a densely populated division. There are lots of girls there for Elif Tran to fight in the absence of Alycia, but they ain't got much of a profile. So with Matchroom behind her, if they promote her right, she can become the biggest name at the weight. But they got to do their part on their end. They've got to do their job. This fight between Elif and Rima kind of snuck up on me. It's flying kind of low under the radar. Matchroom didn't do a whole lot to promote it, mostly because they were not at the helm of the promotion, but still, this is your fighter. Now that she's come through this and she's in line to fight for a title, you need to push her, you need to promote her. There's definitely something there in Elif Tran. You gotta show it to people. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Fundora versus Thurman is set for the MGM Grand. Foster versus Fulton has been added to the undercard. Sebastian Fundora will put his WBC junior middleweight title on the line against Keith Thurman on October 25th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. Sources confirmed to ESPN on Thursday. Fundora versus Thurman will serve as the PBC on Prime main event, with O'Shaquie Foster defending his WBC Super Featherweight title against former Super Bantamweight champion and current WBC Featherweight champion Stephen Fulton in the co-main event. So they moved it. Preliminary reports indicated that fight was supposed to go down on the undercard of the now defunct Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach rematch. Good for them. The championship fight between Fundora and Thurman was previously confirmed by ESPN, but a date and venue had not been secured. Las Vegas will play host to Thurman's pursuit to become a two-weight world champion, the same city where Fundora stepped in on short notice to replace and injured Thurman and defeated Tim Tszyu to become the WBC champion at 154. Fundora, 23-1 with one draw and 15 knockouts, 27 years old, successfully defended his title against Tim Tszyu with a 7th-round stoppage this past July on the undercard of Pacquiao versus Barrios. This fight will be Sebastian's third defense of his newly obtained WBC title. Thurman, 36, has struggled to stay healthy and has fought only twice since dropping a decision to Manny Pacquiao in 2019. In his only fight at 154 earlier this year, Thurman knocked out Brock Jarvis. Foster, 23-3 with 13 knockouts, was rumored to defend the title against Fulton in August on the proposed pay-per-view event headlined by the rematch between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach. The fight didn't come close to fruition, with Davis opting to face Jake Paul in November instead. Foster, 31, will get an opportunity to defend his title on a different pay-per-view with an opponent who is pursuing a third world title in 3 different weight classes. Fulton, 23-1, will move up another weight class after defeating Brandon Figueroa by unanimous decision for the WBC featherweight title this past February. Fighting out of Philadelphia, Fulton was a unified champion at Super Bantam until he suffered his only loss to ESPN's number 2 pound-for-pound fighter, Naoya Inoue, 2 years ago in 2023. The WBC will allow Fulton to keep his featherweight title while challenging for Foster's WBC. You see, that's just wrong. Stephen Fulton literally has a mandatory challenger in the queue right now in Bruce Carrington, and if you guys know that he's not going to fight him, if you know that he wants to move up and become a champion at another weight, don't prolong this. Strip him now. What are you waiting for? The WBC gives these fighters, these champions, far too much wiggle room, which isn't conducive towards the health of the division or the health of boxing. It's ridiculous.
Talk about the fight.
Fulton versus Foster is very much an intriguing fight.
It is.
The reason for it, it's not actually a good idea for Stephen Fulton to hopscotch through weight classes like this. He's only got 2 fights at featherweight. That's it.
Did he already outgrow 126?
I saw one other guy in recent memory do what Stephen Fulton is about to do, and that guy was Ray Vargas. After Ray Vargas beat Mark Magsayo for the WBC title at 126, right after that he jumped up to 130 to try to win the WBC up there.
And he lost.
And the guy that he lost to was O'Shaquie Foster. So O'Shaquie is not in unfamiliar territory here. A multi-weight champion from the lower weights, moving up a little bit too fast.
He's seen that before.
You talk about Stephen Fulton. Stephen is an accomplished boxer, for what it's worth.
He is.
But he wasn't a big puncher at 122. He's not a big puncher now at 126. I don't think he's going to be at 130.
Nope.
So he's not carrying power up there so much as boxing acumen, boxing skill, except that O'Shaquie Foster, he's a boxer himself. Not a bruiser, not a brawler. You're both boxers. He's just bigger than you are, with more time in.
You're gonna be new to the weight. He's not. He's been there and done that with guys bigger than you.
There's a couple of things working against Stephen Fulton in this fight. The only thing I can think of that's working for him is that this is a PBC show. He's a PBC fighter, the house fighter. Maybe that'll help. It all depends on how close and how competitive this fight is. You don't coast on foreign soil.
What foreign soil? They're both from here.
Yeah, maybe, but O'Shaquie Foster is the away fighter. In many ways, he's the traveling champion. He may as well be in Russia. So that's intriguing. If this were on the undercard of a top-ranked show, then I would just go with O'Shaquie Foster.
But because it's a PBC show, and because the PBC are not above robbing fighters in broad daylight,
the outcome is not a foregone conclusion. over to the main event. The Sebastian Fundora versus Keith Thurman fight for the WBC title. I struggle
to imagine that Keith Thurman is going to actually go through with this. I really do. This is a guy who's only boxed 2 times in the last 5 going on 6 years.
And this will be the first time in 6 years that he's boxed more than once in a single calendar year. The last time was way back there in 2019. Injury prone, 36 years old, from Clearwater, Florida.
His middle name is Fitzgerald.
It's quite a leap. From Brock Jarvis to Sebastian Fundora. Brock Jarvis, who was about as tested at 154 as Keith was.
Brock Jarvis, who has fought as low as 135.
I don't see a way for Keith Thurman to win this fight. He's welcome to prove me wrong, but based on what I've seen and based on what I know about Keith at his very best is on the balls of his feet, moving around and setting traps, walking his opponents into hard punches, which against Sebastian will be very difficult to do since Sebastian is so much taller and longer than Keith, to where if you try to stay on the outside of him, you're a sitting duck. He doesn't need to be close to you to hit you.
To touch you.
Well, that's the way it is when you're fighting a fighter that's noticeably taller than you are. Trying to stay on the outside of them, you're giving them what they want. You're giving them a clear target.
That's what happened in the Cordell Booker fight.
Cordell Booker tried to move around on Sebastian Fundora, tried to keep space, and as a result, Sebastian was able to mow him down, walk him down, and take him out. If Keith does what he normally does, he loses.
So what should he do?
Fighting a fighter that's that much taller than you are and longer than you are, the safest place is right up on him, close to the chest, mid-range to inside, where the shorter fighter with the shorter arms has the advantage. Tall guys need room to work. You don't give him that.
So then what's the issue there?
You have to make it there. You gotta get past the jab and the straight punches, the oncoming fire from Sebastian Fundora, and remember that Sebastian actually has a propensity for banging in the booth.
He likes to trade within close quarters. Who do you think has the bigger guns? Sebastian or Keith?
Sebastian Fundora may be working on managing the distance now. We've noticed that in his last 3 fights. The first Tim Tszyu fight, the Cordell Booker fight in between, and the second Tim Tszyu fight. He's working on being a better long-range fighter.
Managing distance.
But before that, you guys all remember how Sebastian used to fight. He likes trading punches on the inside. That's what he used to do. So if Keith does manage to get inside on him, that's not really a failsafe. Could be a gunfight in there, and Sebastian has the bigger guns. So I imagine that in the build-up of the fight, Sebastian is going to be the betting favorite and the logical choice. A Sebastian Fundora late KO is logical to knock out Keith Thurman for the first time. Keith's never been stopped.
Oh, it is the first time for everything.
Thinking ahead, if this fight actually happens and Sebastian wins, I don't think he unifies titles with Xander Zayas after that, or Abbas Baru, or anybody else there. I think if he knocks out Keith, afterwards, he will move up to middleweight, and he will fight Arislandi Lara.
Talked about that in one of the live streams. Samson's not going to let him fight Bakram. He's not going to let him fight Abbas Baru or Xander. He will sooner have him move up to fight another old-timer in Lara.
Provided that he beats Keith, and there's a strong chance that he does. It's really not a bad-looking card, if I'm being honest. The caveat is that it's a pay-per-view. They're billing this as a pay-per-view when the entire combat sports world is moving away from that model, not just boxing, but MMA as well.
Well, I don't think the PBC has a choice anymore. They don't have any money.
That doesn't make it any better. That doesn't make this card more appealing to the consumer. The customer is not more likely to buy it because the PBC ain't got a choice. The customer don't care. The customer's telling themselves, I'm getting Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Crawford next month, nothing extra.
In November, I'm getting David Benavidez versus Anthony Yard. Nothing extra. So why the hell would I pay $80 to see a 36-year-old Thurman box Sebastian Fundora? You know this is how the market resets itself, right? How the market corrects itself. The market is telling you we don't need and we don't want more box office fights, yet you keep putting them out, so we're not going to buy them.
Which creates an imbalance.
You can think of it that way. The PBC's dubious business practices versus what the customers are telling them creates an imbalance not dissimilar from what you see in weather patterns when there is an imbalance. Eventually there's a swell, there's a storm, and afterwards, everything clears up, everything subsides. The PBC is traversing through that storm right now. I don't know if they will survive it, if they can.
They no longer have the resources to sign bright, young up-and-comers out of the amateurs like they used to in better days. I mean, a standout amateur is likelier to go to Matchroom or Top Rank or MVP
Than PBC.
a year and a half into their Amazon deal, and there's still no word on them getting a second broadcast partner, someone who will give them a budget, whereas Top Rank, who just left ESPN.
We're already hearing that they've signed a deal with Stars.
The market correction is simple. If you're not giving the market what it wants, the market itself will phase you out, irrespective of what your circumstances are. Empires rise and fall.
The giants of yesterday oftentimes aren't even a passing thought today.
And I happen to think if this were a regular fight, as part of a regular schedule, you might actually be able to draw a lot of eyes to it.
In the glory days of Fox and Showtime.
Fighters want too much money, and oftentimes the only way to get them that money is to try your luck on pay-per-view, hoping that the money will come from me and you, the consumers. But the consumers have made it clear they don't have $80 to fork over all the time.
This ain't the last pay-per-view they're gonna do this year either. Don't forget that Manny Pacquiao's supposed to be coming back towards the tail end of the year, and you can look for that to be a pay-per-view also.
It is absolutely ridiculous. I happen to think there will always be a place for box office fights in the boxing space, but they have to be fights that have an established grassroots demand with established draws.
Ticket sellers.
The guys that you groom and you develop on your regular schedule of fights, and the metrics that they bring in will tell you whether or not they belong behind a paywall. And it's not subject to a specific amount of time or a specific number of fights.
No, the numbers are what the numbers are. And if a guy's bringing in numbers, then you'll know it's time.
I think the disconnect with a lot of fighters in the last 10 years is that it's not a given. You're not owed the opportunity to box on pay-per-view. That's something you earn yourself with what you generate.
I like Sebastian Fundora, but this kid's been on pay-per-view 2 times where he don't belong on pay-per-view. And Thurman!
A 36-year-old fighter who's only boxed 2 times in the last 6 years, and you're telling me we gotta pay $80 to see him?
Yeah, right.
Been seeing a lot of this fuck the fans talk ever since Gervonta Davis versus Jake Paul was announced. This is the fans' way of responding, you know. When you start thinking,
When has it ever been a good idea to ignore your customers? Now, maybe Jake and Gervonta can get away with it because their fight isn't a pay-per-view, but this one is.
and what do any of you imagine it's gonna bring in? I think they'd be lucky to crack 150,000 buys with this one. I do. They'd be lucky to hit that number.
More of the same on PBC Island.
Still traversing through a storm as the ocean levels rise to eventually wash that island away.